Although now I understand it, at the time at 12, you're not understanding a lot of different things that's going on. You're trying to make new friends. You're in a whole completely different world. You're trying to adapt. And with a heavy accent like how I had, a lot of people would just look at me and they'd be like, yo, what did he just say? And I have people come up to me like, hey Shawn, say how many fingers do I got up? There's tree. Okay, what is that outside? There's a tree. Oh man, did you hear this? Yo, Shawn, say how do you say stairs? Upstairs. What's going on? What are they asking me all these blood clot questions for right now? Man? Are they asking me too much? What a damn bathroom there, man? What's going on? And he's like, oh, you hear me? He said, man, he said, and it was for me, it was difficult, because as I came here, I'm trying to adapt. I'm trying to talk to people, like really connect, and that kind of made me go into my shell because I didn't understand. I didn't have anyone else that was like me.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have two very special guests. One, a former educator, and the other, a manager for Tao Group Entertainment. They are now successful entrepreneurs in the financial industry. They are CEO and COO of Skywalker Consulting. They are also hosts of a wealth podcast on Instagram known as the Green Table Talk. And they are parents to future boss baby Aiden Skywalker Timmons. By the way of Las Vegas and coming to you live from Hawaii, please welcome to the podcast Shawn Timmons and Tiffany Hill.
Right.
Welcome,
Thank you
guys.
for having us.
Yeah, it's exciting. We're here in Hawaii, and I'm excited to get to know you guys a little bit better, know your story. I know we've gotten to know each other a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but I'm excited to hear it all and from the beginning, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Had to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. So I know we're in Hawaii, but I know you guys are not from Hawaii. So you guys can pick who wants to go first. Let's talk about it. Where you guys grew up, how you're raised, that kind of stuff. So, because I like
Definitely.
Yeah, the way we feel here at the podcast is if people get to know your story, they can connect with you better. So, whoever wants to start, we'll go ahead.
Well, fantastic. I guess he's gonna let me go first.
Hey.
I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
So you know how they say Brooklyn girls do it best.
Okay.
That's definitely a saying I believe in. But born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and I spent at least 14 of those years in Brooklyn, New York, Canarsie to be specific. So that's where I'm from.
So Brooklyn, real quick. So I'm a big fan of the notorious B.I.G. Biggie Smalls.
Yeah.
Like I grew up on the West Coast, and I used to think Biggie was the best rapper, and everyone gave me a bunch of crap because it was all about Tupac on the West Coast, right?
That's right.
Yeah, but is he kind of from the same general location that you're from, or?
So he's not from the same projects as the projects that I grew up in, but when you say Brooklyn, Brooklyn tends to breed the finest, like Jay-Z, he's from Brooklyn. A lot of the greats in the hip hop industry have come from Brooklyn. And some in Queens. So that's our boss baby right now.
There you go, there's boss baby, right? All right, Shawn, I know you're not from Brooklyn, Shawn, so talk about where you were born. Hi.
Well, I am originally from the Caribbean island by way of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands. So a lot of my humble beginnings started from there. Just being down from the other side of the island. So being down here in Hawaii is very, it feels a lot like home.
Yeah, so Virgin Islands. I know we talked about this before, but that's where Tim Duncan hails from. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's funny. It's funny that you say that because my grandmother, she has a food restaurant down there, and she used to serve him, and I used to see him and my uncle, because they all used to play basketball together. I used to always see them growing up as a kid, man.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. What was that like?
Yeah. Well, I think it's more so empowering now to see, that a lot of people from the Caribbean, now we're starting to, be seen and things like that. for things outside of just our musical culture, and nice, beautiful beaches. But yeah, man, seeing Tim Duncan to where he's at right now and knowing where he was then at that point in my time, I guess I didn't realize, how powerful of an impact it would make and how much, how much of a path that they clear for a lot of people from the Caribbean. All I knew was, hey, man, we got two young people from the Caribbean. They're going to the U.S. They're representing for us. So yes, big ups all the way.
So I have a question. The Virgin Islands, is there two territories there? There's like a U.S. and a different one, or is it all U.S.?
So there's U.S. and British Virgin Islands.
And so which part of the Virgin Islands were you originated from? The U.S. part?
The U.S. So now when I say by way of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is British territory.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of had both. I got to experience both. I had families, my family's all over the Caribbean. My mom's from Trinidad and Tobago, grandmother's from St. Vincent, I had family in St. Croix. So it's just like I would go through every single one of those islands and get a little bit of taste of everything.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, what's it like? Like, so one part is British colonized, basically. Do they
Yeah.
speak like British English there, and the other part speak more American, or is it kind of a Caribbean type deal?
It's all Caribbean, different
Okay,
dialects.
different.
So some islands will have stronger dialects, different patois and things like that. So it's according to the island you're on.
It's definitely funny because I went to visit his hometown. They have a house in St. Vincent,
Mhm.
and he took me there. I think we were only dating a year, maybe a year and a half, and he took me there to meet his grandmother. He was like, "This is a big deal. I don't do this." And you're going to my home, like where I was raised, and I was like, "That's pretty cool." Because every time I've gone to the islands, it's been like vacation resort. So you don't really get to see, the other side, like how people actually live there, right? And it was just so beautiful to be able to take in like the culture. But when everybody was talking, I was like, translation, what they say? I'm trying to follow along. But, they definitely knew I was not from there. And I definitely needed help understanding what they were saying.
What language was your family speaking, or was it just a deep Caribbean accent?
Is the deep Caribbean accent.
Uh,
Yeah, so I mean, most of my family they speak patois, or like Tiff says, deep Caribbean accent with different dialects to it, man. Um, it's crazy because when I came to America and as I speak right now, a lot of people are like, and big up to all my island people that's listening, and that's tapped in. Yes, understand what we're going on and everything. Hail up to everyone out there.
yeah.
So a lot of people listen to me, and when I tell them I'm from the Caribbean, they're like, "Well, where's your accent? What happened to your accent? Like, well, what happened to the mon and everything else?"
Oh,
You know,
wow.
I had an insightful time when I first came to America.
Okay.
It wasn't one of the best times. So it kind of changed the way that I interact and the way that I speak.
Was that
So,
because of your dialect?
right. So when I first came to America, I had a super deep, strong accent. I was about like 12 or whatever the situation is. And just like most people that come to America, that language barrier was a big problem for me. Although now I understand it, at the time at 12, you're not understanding a lot of different things that's going on. You're trying to make new friends. You're in a whole completely different world. You're trying to adapt. And with a heavy accent like how I had, a lot of people would just look at me and they'd be like, "Yo, what did he just say?" And I have people come up to me like, hey Shawn, say how many fingers do I got up? That is tree. Okay, what is that outside? That is a tree. Oh man, did you hear this? Yo, Shawn, say how do you say stairs? Upstairs. What going on? What are you asking me all these blood clot questions for right now, man? Are you asking me too much? What a damn bathroom there, man? What going on? And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, you hear me? He said, man, he said, and
Yeah.
it was for me, it was difficult, you
Mhm.
know. because as I came here, I'm trying to adapt. I'm trying to talk to people, like really connect. And that kind of made me go into my shell because I didn't understand. I didn't have anyone else
You
that was
didn't know.
like me
Yeah.
that I can associate with and be like, hey man, like, yo, how do we interact with these people?
I was gonna say he probably, thought that they were making fun of him rather than just having a fascination
Yeah.
for something foreign that they haven't got to experience. Because even though that was his experience from the Caribbean, I had a similar experience when I had went to a boarding school. So when I was in, I call it the get out of the hood program, right? Where it's like I was born and raised in the projects, right? Canarsie, Bayview projects. And my guidance counselor when I was in fifth grade was like, hey, I think, and I'm so thankful that somebody cared, to pay attention, because I was always a straight A student, not because I wanted to, but I feared my mom. If I came home with 100 and there was extra credit, she was like, what about the 3 extra points? What happened? So I was always like an overachiever. And the guidance counselor took notice and she was like, I think you would be great for this program. It's for inner city kids, and you test, and if you get through it, then you can go to this program. And I was like, okay, well, I'll take this home to my mom. And I showed her, and she kind of she was like, okay, well, let's go through the steps, let's go see the testing and everything like that. And the bottom line is I made it through everything, and I ended up switching my whole background because I'm in Brooklyn, New York, where the majority of the students in my school are all Black kids. I'm African American. So I go from there, and I had a lot of Caribbean people because a lot of Caribbean people go to Jamaica, Queens, or just, Brooklyn in general. And
Right.
so I knew of the dialect,
Mm-hmm.
still didn't understand it, but I knew of it. It wasn't like, oh my God, what is that? It was just like, all right, I know that's how they talk.
You
And
were familiar, yeah.
I was familiar with it. And then I go to this boarding school that's predominantly white. And
Okay.
now my life is all flipped upside down. And
Yeah.
I have girlfriends who are still my friends today, like we use grease in our hair, and they're like, what is that? Like, in the
Yeah.
bathrooms or they were like, can I use it on my hair? And I'm like, I don't think it's for your hair. So it's just like coming across something you don't know and knowing how to kind of deal with it. No one teaches you that.
Yeah. How old were
So
you
you
when
kind of have
you
to
went to
figure
the
it out.
school? How old were you when you went to the boarding school?
I was, I want to say it was for high school. So I can't remember if it was 12
Like,
or 14, whatever time that is.
yeah, so that's very interesting because at the same time Shawn was coming to the US and
She was
facing
going to
the,
boarding
the
school.
culture shock of, and I think Tiffany, you hit it on the head. They were more fascinated than making fun of him. But as a 12-year-old in a new country, you don't know the difference. You just think like, why is everybody like picking on me? Why, what's wrong with the way I say things, right? But I think it's pretty interesting that you both had that similar unique experience where when you're around that 12, 13, like becoming a teenager, you had this complete turnaround of your upside down of your whole life. And it's like you're in a new culture, so to speak, right? When you guys had to adapt. Do you feel that that kind of made you guys connect in a way, or did you realize that at all?
Um, After 7 hours of breakfast, probably, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
it's funny because when we did actually meet each other, we were like, wow, we're like too similar. Like, we need to make sure we're not related or anything like
yeah,
that. We actually took a trip
just
to
to find out about
the
that.
Carolinas
Really?
to go visit his grandmother, who has like a book of names of everybody,
Okay, yeah.
to see if we were related, to make sure that, because
Oh,
we were so similar in what we discussed, like even though two different paths,
mhm,
just our experiences made us think the same way.
right.
We had to learn how to adapt and young, and we used it instead of as a crutch, as a tool to just get through life.
I
Yeah.
would I would definitely say yes, it allowed for us to connect in that way because just because based off of our past experiences and the things that we've went through, it was a lot easier for us to connect because we had a lot of similar stories just in different regions, coming from the Caribbean to Alaska, by the way. Um, Let me clarify that.
Wait, you
Okay.
went from the Caribbean to
I
Alaska?
went from the Caribbean to
Oh,
Alaska.
man.
So allow me to go ahead and clarify that for most people, because when you hear about, how Tiffany was saying, going from the Caribbean, a lot of Caribbean people definitely go to New York,
Yeah.
Brooklyn. I have a lot of family in Brooklyn. But for some reason, my mom probably saw Cool Runnings and thought that we really could win some gold medals and was like, I'm gonna get you up there. I don't know what the situation is, but somehow we ended up in Alaska of all places.
Wow.
So, when Tiffany talks about, her experiences in boarding school, not only was I in a different country, understanding a whole different way of life and how to live, but I was pretty much off the map. Literally, you're probably not gonna see us on the map. Like I was in Alaska. Who goes to Alaska, bro?
That's the first time I ever heard somebody go from the Caribbean to Alaska. So
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it was definitely a culture shock and a change for me as well.
yeah. And so talk about that. So you grew up in the Caribbean, Virgin Islands, tropical. Now you're in Alaska, right? Like, what was that like? For a young, I guess teenager. You know, what was the hardest thing you had to adapt to, and what was some benefits of it too as well?
Hardest thing I had to adapt to was the language barrier. That was the first thing. And like I said, when that happened, as Tiffany says, as I got older and I understood now, like, hey, it wasn't more so if they were making fun of me. It was just something that they never experienced, something that they didn't know. So going from the Caribbean where I have, a set lifestyle, this is what I understand. This is how we move. We do carnivals in the summertime, we dance, we swim, we go to the beach, all kinds of things to the cold. By the way, I try to hide. I try to run away at least 10 times before I moved to Alaska. Didn't work. I ended up still going there.
Yeah,
But it's like now here I'm in Alaska, understanding how to go ahead and live in this new state, this place. And it wasn't cold. My first experience there wasn't cold
mm.
because we got there in the summer.
Oh, there
So
is
we
beautiful in the
all
summer.
know. Man, oh my gosh. So when we got there, I had the pre-notion because we all watch, National Geographic and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking igloos. Oh my gosh, man, like two-story igloo
I was
house,
thinking the same
you
thing.
know,
I was thinking when you first took me to Alaska. He's
right.
taken me to a few different places for my first times, and I was like, Alaska, what is up there? What? Where is it? Like
You know,
shame on me, because I taught about this, but on those maps, those are incorrect maps, everybody. Like they have Alaska right next to Hawaii. That's not where it's at, guys.
it's funny because we're actually in Hawaii right now. They're not
Not
next to each other.
next to
So,
each
I don't know.
So it was crazy because being there when we first got there, I had that notion. I'm like, okay, igloo. We're gonna have a dog sledding team for a car.
other.
It, there's gonna be a polar bear for our dogs. And
Yeah.
then when we get there, it's beautiful, man, lush, green. And the sun was up for like 22 hours, which was crazy. So nobody told me that the sun was broken. Okay. Now, this was the time. Okay, so I'm around 12, 13. This is the time when and for most of our, younger people that are listening in, they may not know about this, but this was a time when you had to come in when the street lights came on. Okay. So me and my brother were out playing. And well, if the sun's up bright like how it looks like 12 o'clock in the afternoon at 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
we're still out playing on our huffy bikes and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because now here comes my mom with rollers in her hair, and I'm like, oh shit, what the hell's going on right now?
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you guys doing outside? And I'm like, well, it's the street lights never came on. What's wrong? And
Yeah.
she's like, it's about almost 1 o'clock in the morning. You guys got to get home. And we're like, oh man, because that was a completely different transition. Not ever seeing the sun go down.
Yeah, that's
You know,
crazy. I never
it
thought about that because you
it
guys are
was
so far north. Yeah.
Yeah, man, and it's gorgeous, and you're expecting to see like snow. I didn't see snow for I think 4 months after we got there, and I was looking for it. Now, mind you, coming from the Caribbean, also another thing that was kind of weird was I'm coming from tropical beaches.
Hmm.
I don't know what snow feels like. I've
Yeah.
never experienced cold. I don't understand any of that aspect. So I'm looking for snow. I'm like, yo, where is this snow at? And when is it coming? And how does it come down here? And we need to get it. And when the snow finally came, I was like, when does it go back? I don't want it. you know, um,
Careful what you ask for.
it was crazy. It was cold, man. It was cold. It was different. It wasn't what I expected when I first moved because playing the beaches, you throw sandballs.
Yeah.
Pile up some sand and you beam somebody with some sandballs. You got snowballs and they're cold and your hands are
Yeah.
freezing. And then understanding that when you go outside to come inside, you gotta warm up first before you get in the water. Didn't know that either. I got shocked. So for anybody that's never been into cold weather, and you go outside and you come in, let your body thaw out first a little bit. Because then and before you touch any kind of water or anything, because it shocks.
Wow.
But yeah, man, transitioning to that, learning the different people, learning the different ways. I found people were rude. I
Yeah.
thought people in America were extremely rude when I first moved out here to America. Or out there was because in the Caribbean,
Oh goodness.
whenever you see anyone that's an adult, whenever you pass anyone, it's everything's based on respect.
Right.
It's mutual respect. Love, peace. Everything is respect. So when you see adults or you see anyone, even if you're crossing the street, you don't know them. It doesn't matter. It's customary to welcome them, greet them.
Right.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It doesn't matter who they are. I've seen the gangsterest of people see an old lady walk down the street and they're like, "Good evening, ma'am. Good afternoon." And so those are some of the morals that I was brought up on. So when I came to America and I was walking in the streets and I saw people, I was good afternoon, and they were clenching on their stuff and they take off. I'm like, what?
I can talk about that because being from Brooklyn, we don't say hi to people we don't know.
Right.
That's just like the New York fast pace, it's a hustle and bustle city, stranger danger, all of that. You ride the bus, you ride the transport. I grew up riding the trains and stuff, and I was just taught keep my head down, don't talk to strangers, and move fast. Shawn will laugh because he tries to keep up with me with my New York walk, and he's like, "Why are you walking so fast?" And I'm like, "It's a safety thing that I learned, and it's just how we're born."
Yeah.
And so being like that, he's like, we say hi to everybody. I'm like, I only say hi to the people my mom okayed to say hi, and it's a safety thing from growing up in New York. But that was a cultural difference. And when he took me to the island, I'm a person who, if you tell me what's going on, I can go along with it. I can adapt, that's what I learned early. So he told me that, and we were in the Caribbean, and I'm sitting on the porch, drinking my coffee, taking in the views, and everybody, I had to leave the porch because everybody who came out, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta say hi to this person. And it became like a second job, and I'm not used to it. So I was like, oh, good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. You know what? I'm just gonna go. So I don't want to be disrespectful, but I also was like, this is a lot of work that I'm not used to because I just keep my head down.
Yeah, I can feel you. A couple of things. So, I went to Sweden along many years ago. My ex-wife is from Sweden. So, speaking about the sun staying up and the snow, right, Shawn? So, this first time in my life I experienced real snow. Because I've experienced California snow, and that's like cute, like little tiny dots. But so I go to Sweden, and it's minus 25 degrees Celsius. And the snow comes down like the snowflake. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, the picture, it landed in my hand, and I was like, what the heck? This is crazy, right? And like you're just running from store to store, and you're like bundled up, right? So, and then obviously in the summer it's the same. The sun stays up, most of the day, and at night. I still remember I was jet lagged. I showed up. I woke up super late, so I went to the gym like at 11 a.m. I came out of the gym at 2 p.m. and it was pitch black. And I was like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? So I understand that one. And about the speed walking, Tiffany, because my sister lived in London for 10 years, and I've been to London, and London, it's the same. It's like you got to keep up to their pace, or you're going to get ran over or or lost, right? So I feel you on that one. So Tiffany, you were in the boarding school, and how long were you there for? What happened after that?
So boarding school was your typical high school. Every time, I tell somebody, yeah, I went to boarding school, they're like, what did you do? I was like, listen, it wasn't that kind of boarding school where you see in the movies where it's like, I'm sending you to boarding school because you've been a terrible child. It was actually, I wanted to go,
Right.
and I had earned the privilege, I guess, or I worked my way to get in a scholarship and to what they call the ISL. So these are kind of like the Ivy League high schools. You know how you have Ivy League colleges? These were the Ivy League high schools of the Northeast. So after you go through this rigorous program for 2 years, so I did my regular school classes in my junior high. And then I also did summers and Saturday classes during my school year. So my seventh grade, my seventh grade year, my seventh grade summer and my eighth grade summer. And then during eighth grade, I did Saturday classes where I had to go into the city and I would take these rigorous classes that were probably like college level. And so it just prepares you for who you're going to be competing with in boarding school. And
Right.
so the boarding school I went to was actually in Massachusetts. So another cultural shock from New York to
Like going to Alaska.
Massachusetts, in Boston, right? And I'm like, what is that language? Like,
You gotta get the car.
like, now I gotta learn something all over again. But good people.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I was able to experience that, because even in my adult years, just who I interact with, I'm not afraid to talk to anybody or to meet somebody new because of that culture shock.
Yeah.
If I would have only known what I knew and stayed in my little,
Yeah.
people don't get to see the world, it could have hindered me, but now this like blossomed me. So now I'm meeting all these new people. My first year at boarding school, when my mom my mom dropped me off, we drove all my stuff up, and I finally get my own room, which was like a first, because growing up in the projects, we shared rooms. Like you didn't have your own nothing in the projects, right? So I was like, this is like my room. I get my own room. So like that was exciting. We moved all my stuff in. It's like moving in a college dorm, and I'm sitting there, and now it's time for my mom to go. My mom, my brother, my grandfather, they had all come up, driven me up and got me settled in. And then it was time for them to go. And I remember crying. Like, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Wait a minute. Like, I was like, Mom, do you need me to stay? I could come back. Like,
Yeah.
I help you with everything in the house. She's like, no, you worked hard for this. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. And I remember having what we called a dorm parent. And because you're still young, you're not a senior yet, right? So this
Right.
is still high school, you're still new, you're young. So for the freshmen, there's a dorm parent, and they live in the house in the dorms too. They have an apartment in the dorms so that they're on call 24/7. And
Right.
I remember attaching myself to her family like day one. I babysat her kids. I stayed with her all the time. After check-in, she would come and check on me, and I really created this bond. But she was like my second mom,
Mm.
because I was so like homesick.
Right.
But going through that experience, just meeting new people and becoming my own person at such a young age, uh, I can't tell you how that's probably put me ahead leap years in my lifetime. And so after Massachusetts, I decided, when it snowed in May, because we're talking again snow, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful seasons in Massachusetts, and I'm used to the snow, but I was over it. I was like, yeah, when I had a choice what college I wanted to go to, I was like, Florida sounds great. Florida sounds great. I don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
I'm going to Florida.
Yeah.
And you kind of bring up a great point, because you asked Isaac, what's some of the plus sides that I got to being in Alaska and stuff like that. It was the different cultures and understanding how to adapt to that. I know I talk about how, the Caribbean accent, it was a hindrance for me. And the reason why I speak the way that I speak now is because for a year, man, like I didn't say anything to anyone. because as you said, it was kind of, traumatic to me at that age, because I thought that, all right, well, people are making fun of me, so let me learn how to adapt. Let me
Mhm.
learn how to go ahead and, build friendships, because I can't do it
Right.
if no one understands what I'm doing. So for a whole year, I stopped talking really, and I would just go into the mirror and just kind of repeat everything that I heard everyone else saying, and I'd be like, oh, okay, bro, what's up, man? Yeah, dude, all right, dude, all right, all right, so then I was able to go ahead and interact, and it's crazy because although I speak the way that I speak now, I cannot control my accent if I'm around somebody else that's from the Caribbean.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
cannot control my accent if I'm angered, and I
Yeah.
can't control my accent if I'm drunk. There's
Right.
only three times I cannot control it. And I
That's
know,
like the Brooklyn
you
when
know,
it comes out, because people are like, "You're from Brooklyn?" I don't hear it.
Yeah.
And then they'll hear and they're like, "What was that?" I was like, "Oh, that was a little bit of Brooklyn coming out." But I've been so many different places that it's kind of adapting.
Yeah.
Massachusetts. I never adapted the Massachusetts,
No. That's a rough
cat
one.
and all of that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't get to that. But when I was in Florida, I definitely picked up on some Florida. They have I don't even know how you would call it in Florida, but it's
Floridian.
definitely different accent
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. I feel it. A lot of people say, well, why did you get rid of it? It's why would it's not that I get rid of it or that I suppress it. It's just people place certain stereotypes on you,
Yeah.
when they hear you speak a certain type of way.
Right.
I do not, denounce my Caribbean heritage by no means, period. But I also understand that this world is structured in a completely different way. And you got to understand how to go ahead and maneuver in order to go ahead and climb the ladders,
Mm-hmm.
climb to the different, get into the different rooms, different surroundings, regardless on if a person likes who you are or not. The truth of the matter is, they're still gonna have their own preconceived notion of you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like,
Yeah.
all right, well, cool.
Yeah.
Now you see me as I am. Now you know I'm Caribbean. What
Yeah.
go on? You want to
Right.
say something? No, say something.
That's why we always talk about, look, don't let the Brooklyn come up. Don't let this properness fool you.
Yeah.
I've been very well groomed, world class education and everything like that. But at the end of the day, we are where we're from, but it doesn't dictate where we're going and how we got there, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So a couple things on that. I understand where you guys are coming from because my father's from Mexico. So my father uh, faced a lot of racism when he got here because this was like the 70s and he was Mexican and he was dark and he couldn't speak English, right? And people would be like, "What? I don't understand you. What are you saying?" So the weird thing was my father understood very early on, I need to learn English well. I need to try to get rid of my accent as much as possible so that I can move forward in life, right? Had nothing to do with him not wanting to be Mexican or whatever. But the other aspect of that was I learned Spanish because it was spoken in my house up until I was about 5. Then when my sister came along, my dad said, "No more Spanish in the house because I need to learn English," right? And so my sister kind of didn't get that language, right? And the other part of it is it's really awesome to see. Now we understand it that we're older, that every adversity has a seed of benefit greater than But when you're a kid, you don't get it. You're just like, why is this happening to me, right? But the cool thing about all that is that all those things we go through in life, especially at a young age, it builds you. It makes you stronger. And you guys, it's something that I always say is like you got to have street smarts and book smarts. You can't just have
Absolutely.
one or the other, right? You can't just be straight street smart because that's not good. That's like Dave Chappelle when keeping it real goes wrong, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah.
right.
And then you can't just be all book smart because then you don't know how to talk to people or you get taken advantage. You got to have
Right.
kind of like a combination of both. And what I see is that both of you guys have a combination of both because you are from certain areas that were a certain way, and then you adapt it to like a 180 degree. But that's what life is about. Life's about being able to talk to all types of people and adapting and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's pretty
That is.
cool, and I can see now kind of why you guys click so well, and like it just makes sense. I guess my favorite quote is by Steve Jobs: "You can't connect the dots looking forward; you can only connect them looking backwards." And every time I do a podcast and I interview people, they start to connect the dots as they're going along, right? Which is pretty awesome. So Tiffany, you went to Florida, right? Shawn, you were in Alaska. Like, how did you guys end up like meeting? Like, how'd that happen?
I mean, well, I left Alaska and I went to college to Arizona.
Okay.
And I think that's around the time you went to college to Florida.
Yeah, so still separate timelines. I'm in Florida, and you know, being in Florida, I was happy that the weather was great, but actually the school that I got a scholarship to, I was like sold because the campus was beautiful. It's like the private Harvard of the South, right?
Okay.
And I was like, I'm gonna go on the lake and I am gonna just be tanning by the pool, and like this is the life. This is why I worked so hard in high school to get this life. I kid you not. I have never been to the lake at my college at my alma mater, and I went to the pool one time, and I felt bad because I was like, I probably should be studying.
Yeah.
So when I went to college, I worked 3 jobs and took the most credit hours that I could, because I understood that I don't need to be wasting any time with a tuition that is just as high. And even though I got scholarships, I still had to take out a few grants. So I was like, I'm not going to play with this time.
Right.
Meanwhile, the culture that I was around, the school that I went to, had daddy's money. And they were like, I'm going to be on the lake, boats, everything. I'm like, how long have you been in college for? They're like, I'm not even counting until they let me out. I'm like, I'm trying to get out as soon as possible because I had to work and school. And I was like, if I'm going to have to do one of these things for the rest of my life, I'd rather hurry up and get to it, because I don't want to do both for I was already working hard. So I became a teacher. And it's funny because this goes with part of my story. I went to college and I was going to become I wanted to do business, which is funny, right?
Yeah.
Because where I'm at now, but I wanted to do business, but my school only offered international business. And me being from New York and watching too many movies, I was like, I'm not going international nothing, because they're not going to kidnap me.
You were trying to be taken?
None of that. So I was like, I'll pass. It's a hard pass for me. I did not want to travel, right? Being, a single female by myself, that was not the look. And so I ended up taking this one class called educational psychology. And I was hooked, like just understanding the mind and people. And even though it was from a children's standpoint, that's like where we start. And that is what led me into my education fulfillment. So I started taking the courses for education and I became a teacher, right? It was just like second nature because I'm the oldest in my family, and I pretty much raised everything. My cousins, me, my brother, my sister, like I've always had to take on that role. So combined with that and me taking this class, it was just a natural thing for me to just go right into. And so natural that in your last year of school, your second semester, you do an internship at a school, so you get live action, live field training.
Yeah.
I was so good at it that that my teacher that I'm supposed to be working with, she was like, you got it. They're supposed to help you. She was like, you got it. I'm going to go study for my doctorate. You got it. And I was like, I thought you're supposed to be like, I'm only supposed to be doing one lesson. She let me teach out the whole year.
Wow.
And so I knew it was like my calling. And I was very passionate about it. So I stayed in Florida for about 9 years because after school, I was a teacher for 5. And I was really, really good at it. And I loved it. But I loved money a little bit more. And being a young 26-year-old, I was like, this can't be life. Like, I haven't even got to do anything. And I'm not financially where I feel like I should be after all this hard work I put into, And so I was like, you know what? My degree will always be there, but I am not going to be this young forever. So let me put this on pause. And before I hate teaching, because I love the children, I also realized I couldn't change an institution that is already made the way it's made. And I had some big ideas that were not going to be changed by one person and the level and position where I was.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that schools, they make these rules, right? And you implement them, but the teachers are the last people they ask, well, what do you think?
Right.
Well, we're only with the kids all day long and we know what works and what doesn't work. So you would think our input was, something that they would seek, but it's not.
Yeah.
And so, me being somebody who doesn't accept what it is, I'm like, no, I'm just going to go move. And if I can't move it, then I don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So then I decided, you know what? I visited Vegas a few times and I was like, you know what? Vegas might be calling my name because as I worked all those jobs, I worked in the hospitality industry.
Mm-hmm.
So when I visited Vegas and I went to a few places, I was like, hey, I talked to some of the bartenders and the waitresses. I was like, do you love it here? Because I really love it here. I think I would do good. They were like, yeah, we love it. And so I quit. I did not have anybody in Vegas but one friend. I didn't know what was going to go on. I just told my principal, I said, listen, Trevor, I am not going to be here next year. So you can give away all my stuff. And if I get hired in this summertime, I'm not coming back. So you can give away my stuff, tell the kids, because I had lists, like kids wanted to get in my class. So I had to dissolve that list and say, I'm not going to be a teacher here. So you got to put them somewhere else. And he's like, I'm not going to write you a recommendation to go to Vegas. You're one of my best teachers. I was like, I got to do this for me. I'm sorry. And I went and I got hired at 2 places in the summer and that was it. I never looked back. I just went to Vegas and that's how I got to Vegas.
How'd you end up in Vegas, Shawn?
I was in Alaska. As an athlete and as a person that has my family's all military. So that's another thing that I kind of want to put in. My mom is if you don't know how to do it, figure it out type of person. With that being said, there pretty much isn't nothing, there's nothing that I can't do. Okay. And when you hear people say, hey, you can do whatever you want to do, just apply yourself. Well, I kind of took that to heart. So I'm like, there literally isn't too many jobs I haven't done. I've worked many, many jobs just trying to figure out what I want to do. And then I followed along the path that we all follow along. At that time I was playing basketball. One of my friends, my last senior year in high school, my friend, he passed away. His mom had killed him. She was schizophrenic. Yeah, and it was the day before my birthday. He was one of the greatest persons I'd ever meet in my life. And I always make sure his name is still alive. His name's Mike Woods, because he had a lot of faith in me. At that time in my life, I was a little vagrant. I'm not going to lie to you, man. I was a little bad kid. Like, I was a little street
Bad
running
adult.
around like, I don't even care. Like,
Yeah.
we all have a past. I'm not gonna go into my past, but I was not one of the best kids around. Okay. But this guy, this my friend, he believed in me. And he would always tell me, like, man, why are you wasting your life? You could do so much better. He would always tell me so many things to do. You're not applying yourself. You have the ability to do so much because you're so gifted. And I was like, man, whatever. I don't even care about that. Like, this sounds cool,
Yeah.
and I came from a different background in the Caribbean. So, it's just survive is the best thing that you can do. And continue to keep climbing if you can. And when he passed away the day before my birthday, like a switch clicked off in my head and it was like, yo, here I am putting myself in harm's way on a day-to-day basis just to be cool or whatever I thought was cool at the time. And here's a guy that's really applying himself, and because his mom had a sickness, he lost his life. And yeah, so from there, I took it on myself as, and that year I lost a lot of friends, man. I lost another good friend, to drunk driving. Some drunk driver hit him and killed him. And so I experienced a lot of loss right in that same my senior year. And in there, it let me value life a lot more. And so I said, all right, cool, let me go ahead and switch things around. And I switched it up. I turned the game on. I got into basketball. I got into track. I broke state records on my first time in track. Ended up going to the Junior Olympics. I experienced a lot of different things. And I ended up going to a basketball tournament in Arizona. Babe, don't say nothing right now. So in Arizona, I saw some bad girls, man. I was like, damn.
Yeah, I get
I
you.
said, I don't know what's happening down here, but when I go to college, I'm leaving Alaska and the Eskimos to Arizona. I know you're trying to leave the cold.
Yeah.
But now that I look at it, I feel like, I tried to try every extreme. I went from the tropical, to the cold. Why not try the desert? You know what I mean? Because the ladies are hot in the desert. And I went down there and it was funny because
Everything's hot in the desert.
man, I was like, man, the desert is hot for real. I like it. But it was crazy because the school that I was trying to go to was Arizona State.
He
Okay.
was so fast.
So now here we are applying for schools and things like that. My friend and I, and we're sitting here, we're like, yo, man, what was the name? What city was that school in? And it was a T. It was always, well, we were thinking like Tucson.
Okay.
It was Scottsdale, Tempe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we remember because we had our tournament in Tempe.
Yeah.
And it was in Scottsdale is where we saw the school. And we're both just debating. We're like, yo, it's T. I think it's Tucson. I think it's Tucson, bro. Is it Tucson? Yeah. So we don't care. We apply. And then and we
Like
get
academic, who cares?
right. So we get there and to U of A and things like that. We're looking around. We're like, yo, this is not the same. Did everything change in that last couple months? Did the whole and then we were already caught there and just ended up going to school there. And then we found out as we were in school there, it was ASU we were supposed to go to instead of U of A. Okay.
Yeah.
We made the best of it.
School.
man, we went to the wrong one, but it was still an amazing time, man. Tucson was great being out of our comfort zone. My mom, just like how your mom, but your mom was forgiving. She wanted you to go and be free.
Well, she saw how hard I worked.
My mom didn't want me to leave.
Oh.
My mom didn't talk to me for like 3 months after I left because she wanted me to go to college in Alaska. And I was like, cool, I'm out of here. Peace.
Yeah.
And I just went and did my own thing. I had no one. I had to figure out a lot of things that I went through. And one thing that I did know I love to do was help people. Ended up going through school and everything else. And then I went back to Alaska to do pharmaceuticals. To do pharmaceuticals, I got into pharmaceutical industry because I wanted to help families.
Yeah.
I got fascinated with the schooling of it, got my degree in it, and I thought it was amazing. So I said, all right, well, cool. I want to do this. I got to the job. Pharmaceutical school is cool, but the job is so boring and mundane. Oh man, the money was great, but then there was just
legal drug dealer.
Outside of that, yeah,
Pretty
exactly,
much.
1000%, man. The morality to it didn't kick in, man. It didn't kick in until later on. Like when I'm sitting here saying, okay, you got this drug, and then 3 months later you bring in another drug to replace that last drug because it's better, but it has way more side effects, and then another one in the next 3 months, and you keep pushing. And then I saw why that's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And to be honest, man, to me it disgusted me. I sat down. I remember sitting in my car one day, and I called my best friend up. I was like, yo, man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here anymore. And he was like, so leave. Why are you even there? He said it to me just like, he's like, why are you even there? I don't understand. I was like, man, got a good job, make good money, good career. Like, he's like, so? He's like, you're one of the most talented people I've ever met. He's like, you dance, you fight, you play basketball, you're athletic. He's like, so many things. You can play music. He's like, why are you wasting your talent right there? And I was just like, you know what? You're right. But what should I do? He's like, check this out. Leave. I was like, all right, okay, I want to leave. I was like, where I go? He's like, man, well, I think you would be dope on TV or whatever, go to LA, go to Cali. You can do so much with your skills out there. Do something out there. And then I looked at Cali. It was expensive as hell. No. Okay. So then we looked at Las Vegas and I was like, well, Las Vegas is cheap. It's cool. I can do things there. If I can get in shows and stuff like that in Las Vegas, I would be great. And then I can always just drive to Cali. It's about 3-4 hour drive. No big deal. Right. So I had maybe like $1,500 in my pocket. My mom was like, yo, what are you doing? You're leaving. And I literally went into work and I was like, yo, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I just left. I was like, yeah, I can't do this. I feel like I was burning my soul away. So I was like, thank you guys. I'm done. And I left. I didn't have any friends in Las Vegas. I had no job lined up in Las Vegas. I had no idea what the hell I was going to do in Las Vegas. I just know I needed to go. And my friend at the time, he was like, well, I have a timeshare there. You stay there for at least a week, get yourself on your feet, figure out some stuff, and then kind of move from there. And I went, man. And as I went there, I had to start all over from ground zero, like making friends, building an industry. I mean, finding out which industry works for me, getting money, things like that. And that's when I got into the hospitality industry. And it worked out because I liked being around people and helping people. Plus, it was super dope.
Yeah,
So I just
you had
kind
the
of climbed my
experience
way.
too. You guys both already had the experience of starting over and rebuilding. So again, that situation when you were young ripped you out of your home, put you in a situation where you had to just figure it out. Now you're in another situation where you got to figure it out. But little did you know, you already had all that experience. I mean, it was, I'm not saying it was probably easy. It probably was still difficult, but you already had the know-how and the skill and the experience to do it.
So unlike Tiffany that had two jobs lined up when she came in, I just popped in there and I was just like, all right, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had to use one thing that you said earlier, Isaac, that street smarts. You have to have street smarts and book smarts, really to succeed in anything, I feel as if.
Yeah. I was going to say that's not the only adversity that, we had to face, like starting over. You had to talk about, who we are coming in, which, being, just to put it out there, the industry in Las Vegas is fantastic, but there are not a lot of African Americans.
Time out. Hold on. You can't jump into that yet. You can't jump into that yet because I didn't even get into the industry yet.
I'm sorry.
I didn't get it. So when I got into the industry, okay. So when I got down to Vegas, I got into security first because I had a fighting background. Right. So I had to find a job, and there was a security guy that walked around the little timeshare all the time, and I was like, "Yo, man, it's hot as hell outside. Yeah. Do you want to come in and hang out, get some water, chill?" Because like every time there's like this little button thing you press, I guess tracks where he goes. And he's like, beep. And I was like, yo, man, I keep seeing you walking around all the time. Are you good? It's 100 degrees outside. He's like, man, it's hot, but I just got to hit these markers and get back. I was like, yo, man, if you ever stop by here again, mind you, I'm from the Caribbean, so we're friendly. On that small island, you know everybody. So you see people in help, you help them. You see a person thirsty, you got water, you give them water. Like, so that was the mentality that I grew up with. So I see this guy walking in every time. He seems cool. He works there, so I know he's not going to do anything foolish or else he's going to lose his job. So I'm just like, yo, man, if you ever need some water, if you want to just hang out, whatever, come through. So we hung out, and we kind of built a relationship from there. And, I was like, man, I'm new out here looking for jobs and stuff like that. He was like, yeah, most of the people that I met in Vegas, hey, guess this, they're all tourists.
Yeah.
Go figure. That's where everybody goes to tourist. And I'm not even thinking that. So every time I met people out when I was out, I was like, oh man, where you from? Oh, I'm from, from this other state, that other state. I'm like, damn, where are the people that actually live here at?
They're not there.
They're not there. So, and then I finally found one. And he's like, he's like, yeah, there. And he's like, man, he's like, if you're looking for a job, we're looking for new security. Got into that. And from there, I kind of became a security guard. And as a security guard, I was working at timeshare and stuff like that. I also was still pursuing the reason why I went down there to go ahead and, really flourish my skills and everything that I had. So I danced, hip hop, contemporary, things like that. That was when So You Think You Can Dance was starting to get, some traction. So I went out to So You Think You Can Dance in Utah, and I got it. I didn't go all the way through. I think it was like the 4th or 5th season, one of those. But I went pretty far. And then I got dropped out because they had me doing some technical stuff I never was trained on. I was like, okay, cool. But then one of the ladies that was there offered me a scholarship to Juilliard to dance. Yeah, it was huge. So I was excited about it. And I was supposed to be going there in the spring or something like that. And at my security job, there was an altercation with a drunk guy who attacked my supervisor at the time. And I stepped in between to stop him, and I tore my deltoid ligament in my ankle.
Oh.
So I lost my scholarship. I lost my ability to dance. I had to write a whole like email or whatever to let them know why I couldn't take, the opportunity. And it was hard, man. It was crazy, because I really wanted to go do that and I lost out. So I figured, all right, well, man, I'm not supposed to be dancing if that's the situation. And then I went from there into the hospitality industry, like restaurants and things like that. Started as a busser. I was like, damn, bussers make good money. Because the security, I made hourly.
Mhm.
Bussers, I made tips. I was like, ooh, this is some nice little money in the restaurants. I get paid how much? $100, $200 a night? Sign me up. What I got to do? It's funny because I did that for like a day. And then I found out that servers made more money than bussers.
Yeah.
So I was like, what do you got to do to be a server? They're like, oh, well, you got to pass this test or whatever the case is. I was like, okay, do you have to have experience? Like, do you have experience? Fortunately for me, I have experience talking.
The gift of gab, yeah.
You know what I mean? I have experience talking. And yes, my grandmother has a restaurant. So I'm like, yeah, grandma has a restaurant. Did a couple things around the restaurant. No big deal. What do I gotta learn, man? Because you guys aren't teaching me, it's not rocket science. How to
Yeah.
serve food, take orders. I could do that. What's the lesson? What I gotta do? So they taught me everything. They gave me the book. I took the test. I passed it. They're like, okay, well, you're great. Server made more money. I was like, ooh, this is nice. Now, I think that was at the Rainforest Cafe. Then I went to Grand Lux and whatever, what is it, Cheesecake Factory?
Cheesecake Factory.
So I had to learn all of their menus. Why?
That's like
Because
a dictionary. That menu.
It's
Yeah.
a dictionary.
So-
right?
so as I moved, I started noticing in Vegas, there's a lot of money and you just got to level up. So this restaurant was here. The next restaurant was up here. So I'm like, all right, let me work my way up to fine dining. That's what I'm gonna do. And that's what I did, and I went from restaurant to restaurant, climbed up, built up my repertoire until I found out about the nightlife industry and the day clubs. Because now, right.
It's always new level, new devil.
Now
I just went straight for it.
so see, because she knew I didn't have that experience, and I'm over here and I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, you make more money? I said, I make more. I'm making good money at fine dining restaurant. I'm like, yo, this is good. Yeah, life is good. I'm eating good. I ain't have to worry about nothing. Then one of my friends wanted me to go to an audition, and I was like, an audition? I was like, I don't give a crap about no damn. I'll go with you. I'll go with you. We'll go together. Whatever. Well, I got the part. My friend did it.
That happened to me too.
I felt so bad.
I went on an audition with a friend to support her,
Yeah.
and that's what led me into my first in Blue Martini. So, are you familiar with Blue Martini, Isaac?
No.
Or the Blue Martini? It's like this cocktail lounge, and it started in Orlando, Florida, at the Mall of Millennia. And that was my first cocktailing job. I wasn't even 18 yet.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I couldn't even do the cocktailing part. I had to be a food runner until I turned 18. As soon as I turned 18, as soon as I turned 21, then I could be a cocktail waitress. And that was my door in. But I went with a friend to support her. She told me about it. She was like, come on, Tiff, let's go get these jobs. Like,
Yeah.
this is a really nice cocktail restaurant. I was like, all right, cool.
Mhm.
We went in there. I must have wowed the manager. And then she went after me. And I was like, so did you get it? And she was like, no. Maybe he's going to call you back like later. And I think we lost our friendship after that.
Yeah,
Hey.
it's
She was in your life for a reason. Those people were there to take you guys to the
right. And it's so crazy because now that I even think about it, like, because I don't even talk to that friend anymore. But I went with her because she was insecure. She was like, "Yo, I don't really." And I was like, "You look really good, girl. Come on, let's go ahead. I'll go with you. I don't even care. Let's go together." Because why? I had a fine dining job. I was banking out. I didn't care if I make it or not. But if you want me to go with you so you feel comfortable, I'm gonna go with you. And I went. And then they offered me the job. And I'm looking, I'm like, man, then I heard what they make there at that job. Then I was like, hey, Mr. Fine Dining Restaurant, it's been great. Level up time. And then that's when I got into the nightlife and day club industry. And I was bussing. I was a busser again. But bussers
in that
industry, Isaac, can we disclose? They make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. We made a lot of money. I made a lot of money just doing that. And it was partying and helping people have fun. Like, so I enjoyed my job. I was like, yo, this was really great. And then, then I started getting in industry and understanding how the industry worked. And as Tiffany was about to tell you, it's not many African Americans in our industry, in that
It's
industry.
very rare.
So I guess it was definitely luck or whatever it was supposed to be, because not many, African Americans get into that industry, and we just kept propelling and climbing in that.
In Las Vegas, when I went to audition, I didn't even know about auditioning. I just thought it was a job interview, but in Las Vegas, for the pools and the nightclubs, you have to audition.
That
Like
sounds
you have to come in
like
a bathing
acting
suit.
job or something,
Yes.
Yes.
You have to come in a bikini. Like if it's the pool, you have to come in bikini wear or club attire. They want to make sure you look the part. You are really auditioning. And they ask you about your background and stuff. And a funny story about when I went to go audition, I just got out of another interview, right? Because I'm in Vegas just on the hunt. I need to land a job because I'm quitting. I'm coming to Vegas, right? So I'm on the hunt and I line up all these interviews and I'm just going to the places that I want to work with my headshot and my resume. And I'm like, can I please speak to a manager in live time? And they're like, is there something wrong? And I'm like, no, I just need to speak to a manager. Can you grab them for me? You can't leave things up to chance. So if you want it, you have to go for it. So I'm finding a manager and I'm like, here's my resume and here's my headshot. Not sure if you're hiring, but if you are, I'm very ready to work. And they were like, okay, thank you. They took it. And what happened is that I went to this club in the beginning of the week. And then I got an audition, not through them, but through a source finder, And I ended up going to this audition. I don't get the memo that it's a pool audition. I'm in a pencil skirt and a professional attire and I'm in the line and I'm in the line with a whole bunch of people in bathing suits. I'm like, am I in the right place? Well, I guess I'm already here. I'm just going to go. And I sit down and guess who is sitting in front of me? It's the manager that I gave my headshot to. And she's like the cocktail manager. She wasn't the general manager. The general manager is sitting in front of me. And he's like, you guys know each other? I was like, yeah, I was here in the beginning of the week. I gave my resume and my headshot. He's like, oh, you're the picture we have hanging up in their office right now, trying to figure out if we're going to hire you or not. And, look, long story short, they hired me and I ended up, that's how my Vegas industry job started career.
Yo, that's a lesson right there, for people out there. Like, take action. Don't wait for opportunities to come to you. You go to them. Like, you put yourself literally, like, they were staring at you for like a week before they
yes,
before auditions.
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yo, I actually did the audition. And what I did, because at that time, when they do the auditions, it's all like the pools and all the clubs and stuff like that at the same time. So I got a little bit smart. I did my book smart stuff. Okay. So I didn't pick because I didn't know which one was which. I was just like, oh, well, I'm gonna go to all of them. One of them is gonna call me back.
Right.
So what I did was I went to the first one and they asked you like a set of questions. And it's crazy because it's like cattle herding. They're just trying to get people through. They ask you a few questions and you're out. And I'm like, how the hell are you gonna dictate who you pick from just there? I saw people doing backflips in their interviews, all kinds of weird stuff just to kind of be remembered.
Like stand out.
So what I did was I paid attention to the questions that they asked me. And then I went to the next interview and I took that question and I used it against the person in the next interview. And then the next, and then the next. And whatever was the best answer, like, because when you do an interview, you're like, damn, I should have said that. So it felt like me, like I had 100 different times to go ahead and say that again. So I was like, okay, boom. Yeah, this is what I meant to say. Oh, no, never mind. Boom, this is what and then, so it's funny. So I ended up getting called back and I got accepted to every single one of the clubs. And then I just picked whichever one I wanted and whichever one was making the most money at the time. That's where I went to.
Yeah.
So which one did you start at?
I started at Palms. Okay. So that was back. I don't know if you ever heard of a thing called Ditch Friday.
No, but I know Palms was big for a while.
Yeah, so
it was like the super one before the other ones.
Before everything else popped off, Palms was it. Back when DJ AM was doing his thing, and all those great DJs was crushing it. Palms was fire. That's where Diddy used to do his after fight parties and things like that. it was huge, man. And I was there. Like,
In it all.
oh my gosh, I experienced everything
Yeah,
there. It was nuts.
it's funny
Tell
because
us some pretty crazy experiences that you had being part of the Palms.
Man, wait, say that again.
Just give us one like unique or crazy experience for being part of that whole Palms during that time.
Unique, crazy, man. I saw things that I don't think people, if they know what happens in Las Vegas, really would do what they do. So there was one time at the day club, you know, the security, I pay attention to what everybody's doing. There was this girl, she was in the pool, and she was splashing up and down on this guy, and I'm thinking that they're dancing, right? They're actually getting it on in the pool right then and there,
Wow.
right? And I'm just like, oh man, that's crazy. Okay, well, girl, go ahead and do your thing. It gets weird. Okay, security breaks him up because he sees him, and he's like, hey, you need to stop that, or you're getting the hell out of here. And so she hops off the guy. You see it, hops off the guy, swims across the pool, and hops on another guy and starts doing him.
Oh
I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then the security eventually kicked her out of the pool. But I was like, there was crazy things like that, man.
yeah, people's liquid courage, you've seen it all. As a former educator, I got paid to pretty much babysit, if you want to call it, children, right? But in the industry, we got paid to babysit adults, which was same. And so a lot of the times when I was dealing with customers, right, I would just be like, sometimes my second graders act better than you. And they would actually appreciate the teacher authority. I would use a lot of those skills with a lot of my clients because, they have to be reprimanded the same ways. I had to use my teacher voice. I'm like, listen, Charlie, you've been doing so good up until this point. I need you to gather yourself. And we're going to get it together.
Would have thought your teacher experience would have helped you in Vegas.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, it's the same thing. I just get paid for more, my first night on the job, and I had two. So I did bartending first because I was coming from bartending and I felt comfortable in that role. Until my bartender friends told me, what are you doing behind the bar? You're young and you're beautiful. You can be a cocktail waitress. They make more money, like Shawn said. You find out who makes the more money. And they're like, go audition for cocktail. I had a few good bartender friends. They'd be like, bartenders for like when you get older and then you can't do it no more. Like, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, I was just getting my foot in the door. So I'm behind the bar. And on the bar, you can see everybody's tab, all the cocktail waitresses' tab. And I remember seeing a tab that was more than my entire teacher salary.
Wow.
And I was like, I had to look at it like a few times, like, wait, did that say? And there's a comma there. And they're still going. Yeah. I was like, I am in the right place because I need to be around this, not what, like, it, it let me see that even though I wasn't spending the money, it's like associations. You're around the money. So naturally, you should be making the money like that eventually. And that was one of the craziest things that put perspective. I was like, I made the right choice. Because everybody was like, you're going to quit your career to just wing it in Vegas and go be a bartender? Right. And I was like, when you say that, it dumbs down what Vegas really is. When you go to Vegas, you are not just a bartender. You are not just a cocktail waitress. You are not just a busser. You are the entertainment. And that is entertainment central. People spend their whole lives saving up to come and be entertained in Las Vegas. It's like the Disney World for adults. Right. And it was just an honor to like have been a part of that and see celebrities and performances that we never probably would have seen
otherwise. Like, listen, where people save up a lot of money just to go like concerts and things like that, we saw them every day.
Every night at
like it was I'm like,
what up, Little John?
Yeah. I took care of so many celebrities, bro. And I'm not, when I say take care of them, like here, Wiz Khalifa, Noah's Mama Rose, like everybody, like
Kevin Hart.
We were, Robin Thicke, like all of these people, we met all of these people, like, hey, what's good? Yo, man, thank you so much. And I'm handshaking, hugging these people. And I'm like,
pictures.
We were where people pay crazy amount of money just to get in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, hey man, come take a shot. Busta Rhymes had me try to take a shot with him. I was like, bro, if I could take it and smoke a blunt with him, he's like, yo, I was like, no, well, it wasn't with him. I think it was with one of his entourage. He's like, man, if you want to, I was like, no, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, yo, take a shot with me. And I was like, no, Busta was huge. I was like, man, I felt bad telling him no, because I felt like he probably would have snapped me. But he's like, you from the same islands? He's like, well, go on, let's go ahead and do this. I was like, no, man. I was like, I still got to work. Still got to get y'all stuff going on.
We took care of Jay-Z and Beyonce. They hosted a New Year's party.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Who'd you ring in the New Year's with? Oh, no big deal. Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Yeah. And I'm talking like, we were those people that they got to. So, when you talk about all the adversity and things that we went through, that kind of lined us up for where we were and how we were able to adapt, looking back now, thinking about, all the differences and how to go ahead and maneuver. I feel like because we were placed in different certain circumstances, it allowed for us now, when we're on this stage where there's so many different walks of lives of people, different kinds of people that are coming in, we were able to go ahead and just really relate to them a lot easier. And
also just be like, we deserve to be here. Like, we're no different from you, but we earned our stripes to kind of be here in this presence, in this moment, in this time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too, because when you're around those types of people, they want you to act normal around them. They don't want you to be all like, or like not be able to talk to them. So that's a good point, that all this stuff. And it's funny how life, like I said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, and it all kind of made sense. So you guys are living the life, working, making money around celebrities. How did you guys meet?
Thank you for tuning in. That was the end of part 1. Part 2 comes out next Monday, 9 a.m. Please stay tuned.
Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when the next one comes out.